That's me, Colt Sievers. And this is my hero's journey. Okay, I'm not the hero of this story. I'm just a stunt guy. Trying to look cool in front of the director of this movie.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Greetings and salutations.
Oh, hi, Mark.
All right, I ran out of patience.
It's showtime.
Hello and welcome back to In Retrospect. My name is Matt Profesh. That's my middle name. And as always, I'm joined by Brady. Brady, how are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. Dude, did you like this movie? I seen it. It feels like a long time ago since I've seen it, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah. It's a very fun movie.
Yeah, same. Like, it's not a great movie, but Fall Guy, it's got the juice in the best ways, I think. Like, it's not. Mm-hmm. It's like the best type of like summer blockbuster popcorn movie that you want to see, and I want more people to realize that and not to expect to like this is what Godzilla and Kong wanted to be. I think like just good popcorn movie making.
Yeah,
and
it's the perfect kind of movie for this time of year.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean. There's not going to be a lot to get into. I don't think this movie's like incredibly thin, but I really enjoyed it. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't start with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Dude, like I thought we lost this Ryan Gosling back in, I think it was 2016. I thought we lost him when he did The Nice Guys. I was like, we're never going to get this ever again. Holland was a perfect character. And then he surprised us with Barbie. Mm-hmm. And then he surprised us again with Colt Sievers. And I'm just elated.
Dude, he's he's one of the guys. Like he's just you know, we talk a lot about how not necessarily me and you, but just like people in general talk about how there's not really movie stars anymore. He's definitely an argument against that.
That's interesting because the box office did not like this movie.
Yeah. But
I agree with you. Like, everything about this movie feels like it should have done gangbusters. Outside of the trailer, I think there was some mixed like thoughts on the trailer. I never really understood it. Like, I really liked the Argyle trailer. A lot of people didn't like that trailer either, so maybe it's just me. But I thought this trailer really worked. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, I really loved what this movie was. It was exactly what I wanted. I wanted a movie that was fun, that didn't take itself too seriously, and I wanted Ryan Gosling and the whole cast to have a great time making it, and I think that's ultimately what I got.
Yeah, and I am such a sucker for movies about making movies. So, like, right when I realized, you know, like, we're going deep into, like, the filmmaking aspect of this, like, that I was 100% on board, like, in the first 5 minutes of this.
Yeah, I was, when the movie starts, it's a little bit confusing. Like, it's almost like, it's like it does the Babylon thing in reverse. And then and I was caught off guard. I'm like,
yeah.
I was like, I've seen this before. And then I picked up on it. I'm like, wait a second. Mm-hmm. This is just clips from other movies I've seen before. And what's interesting about that is I don't know that it completely works. Like, I loved what it did, right? Don't get me wrong. But, like, it feels so incredibly disjointed. And in a lot of ways, this movie particularly, and that's not an insult to this movie. In fact, it's kind of what is fun about it. It's like Bullet Train. Yeah. I don't know that I'll completely commit to what you said last year about how Bullet Train was a movie of just a bunch of moments. But this one,
yeah,
if David Lietch ever does something that you could recognize, it's that he loves creating scenes, and sometimes those scenes go on too long.
No, he's like, it's very like this movie really pulls that out. It's very much like the stuntman in him, like the stunt director in him, where he's trying to get to like these big fun set pieces with like lots of crazy stunts and stuff. Like, I mean, gosh, you look back, every movie he's made has pretty much been just like that, I feel like.
Yeah, I got to thinking about it. I forgot he did Deadpool 2, which I didn't love. I wasn't a big fan of that movie. But I forgot about Atomic Blonde. I forgot he did that. I like that movie. This is a quick funny story, like side note. Like, this will be really quick. I didn't realize that Zack Snyder's writers worked on Atomic Blonde, and I was talking to Brianna, and I was like, because we were listening to a podcast about David Lietch and other things he had done, and someone mentioned Atomic Blonde was, I think, like their least favorite movie, and that ultimately they liked the movie, and the things in the movie, and like Charlize Theron was really great, and ultimately like the spy espionage thing of it really worked. But the script kind of fell flat. And then he mentioned, yeah, and I just told Brianna that briefly. Like, I was like, I liked the movie, didn't love the story. It was very convoluted and unnecessary. And then the next thing the guy said was like, yeah, he partnered with some of Zack Snyder's writers. Like, I've never felt more vindicated in my life.
Yeah. I feel the same exact way about that movie.
Yeah, it's really good.
That he feels.
I like the movie a lot, though. It made me want to go watch it after thinking about it again, because it's been a very long time. I did enjoy it, though. But even dating back to that, like all of his movies, just you and I were talking offline the other day about the Guy Ritchie film that most recently came out. I'm blanking on the name of it right now. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, whatever the name of that movie is. We were talking about how, like, I told you, like, how, like, all of Guy Ritchie's plots usually, like bloat to a point of, like, this does not feel safe. Is he going to land the plane? And then most times he does. And this one, I didn't feel like he really did that. And I think that's David Lietch. That's his MO. That's what he does. And in most cases, it works. Like, I don't go into a David Lietch movie expecting to be wowed by the twist that was in The Sixth Sense. I don't go into an M. Night Shyamalan movie expecting a very thorough, straightforward A to Z like movie either. Like, both things can exist, and I really like how David Lietch has cornered this market of like, I'm going to make movies that are fun, and as long as they're fun, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, you can definitely tell, like, he draws these big names, like actors, and you can tell they all know exactly what they're getting into. Like, it's so interesting. Just like I kept thinking, like, comparing Brad Pitt's performance in that movie to like Ryan Gosling's in this. Like, it's very similar. Like, they're
very kinetic, very childlike.
There's even, yeah, like, especially when you get the moment of like we pick back up on Ryan Gosling, and he's like living alone, and he's got like this little like garden that he grows like stuff. It was very much like the Zen, peaceful kind of thing that they were doing with Brad Pitt's in that other movie. But yeah, it's did you ever like think, I wonder what like Bullet Train would have been like with Ryan Gosling in that role?
Honestly, no. I did a lot think about, and I'm not the first person who has had this thought. They gave Ryan Gosling a Ryan Reynolds role and just tried to see what would happen.
Yeah.
That's more of so where my brain was at. And for the record, I think Ryan Reynolds would have been fine, but this is a far superior film without Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling instead.
Well, absolutely. But there is a particular, like, the cameo in this movie they had to have been wanting to get Ryan Reynolds just because he's cameoed in every single David Lietch movie to this point, pretty much. The big one at the end.
Oh, yes. Dude, like, I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm not going to lie to the people listening. This movie is forgettable. It's enjoyable, but it's certainly forgettable too. Yes, I like that. They laid the seeds for it too, which I think really worked.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird because he doesn't look anything like Ryan Gosling, though.
That's fair. That is a good point. I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know. It was a very interesting choice for a cameo, but it really, really, really worked. I do wonder though, was this part written for Ryan Reynolds? Do you think it was by any chance of the imagination? Because I know there were a lot of people at once attached to this. Like, I mean, Dwayne The Rock Johnson was attached to this a long time ago. Like, a very different movie, by the way. Gosh,
rough.
100%. Like, there were so many. Let me see if I can find them. Nicolas Cage, Jason Statham, Tom Cruise, Keanu Reeves. All of these different people were attached over the years.
Dude, Cruise would have been like super meta, but it would have been fun.
Yeah, if he could have channeled like his Tropic Thunder days, oh my God, he might have won an Oscar for this.
Dude, like I do all my own stunts. Like, he was the first person I thought of whenever they kept pulling that joke, like, which I know a lot of actors like say that.
Sure.
And that was kind of the point of that, was that it's not exactly true. But man, that would have been pretty cool.
Let me ask you another thing.
But
go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, you're good.
I wouldn't hate if Aaron Taylor Johnson had led this movie.
Yeah, I also thought that some.
Let me flip the script. What if it's Aaron Taylor Johnson playing Colt Seavers and Ryan Gosling would have played Aaron Taylor Johnson's character?
Mm-hmm. That would be good. Like, I think it's so weird that I feel like he should be bigger than he is.
Yes,
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Dude, I was having this conversation with Brianna after we walked out of this movie last Wednesday. It makes no sense.
We talked about it, I think, whenever we talked about Bullet Train, just how good he was in that movie. Like, he was the best part of that movie. Him and Brian Tyree Henry, like, they were the best part of that movie.
I don't like being nihilistic or being the sexy bacon. Like, that's not what this is. But
that was funny.
If Aaron Taylor Johnson does not get James Bond, I don't know that his career becomes anything more than a great supporting role.
But he's got Kraven the Hunter, man.
They're burying that thing. Don't even. He might be great in it. He very well could be great in it. I have less than no expectations for this movie.
No, I think he would be a really good Bond.
I think so too.
I hope that works out for him.
Dude, I would almost even expect I wish they would dip back into like the campy Sean Connery, like suave.
That's what I want.
Like just dip back in there, see what would happen. And I think Aaron Taylor Johnson would be great at it.
Yeah, I really want to just go back to that. He would be perfect for that.
But no, yeah, I think Aaron Taylor Johnson's probably collectively in this movie for like 12 minutes, 13 minutes.
Yeah.
And dude, he gives you everything in it.
Mm-hmm.
In a movie where Ryan Gosling is arguably the thing that keeps you most interested in the movie, I would say Aaron Taylor Johnson's my second favorite part of this movie, and Ryan Gosling's not number one.
Dude, his like McConaughey impression when he's like in character is one of the funniest things I've seen in a movie this year. Oh, it was so funny. And then like they use like the Dune sting, like with like the coral, like it was so funny.
I love how like they used the dramatics of the score from like an inspiration from Dune, but gave it the backdrop of like a cheap Netflix Rebel Moon ripoff.
Dude, it was so just like bad Zack Snyder. It was hilarious.
It also, gosh, I'm blanking on her name. The girl who was Aaron Taylor Johnson's girlfriend, who was Teresa Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
When she's walking like she's Reverend Mother. Dude, I almost lost it. It was incredible.
So funny, man.
But you know what my favorite part of this movie was?
What?
Winston Duke.
Dude, he's great. He's really good in this.
I think what makes his character work so incredibly well is he is the stunt coordinator, right? And I think he gets so like his role is the most natural, the most exaggerated version of natural that you could be in this world, if that makes any sense at all. Like you could tell he's the most grounded character. Like Emily Blunt's good. I wouldn't say she's fantastic. But like she goes from being a camera op to a director. That's not happening. But I think Winston Duke's character as being the stunt coordinator is grounded in the most natural way, considering the world that it lives in. And you can really tell they put thought into that. And it just like oozes like, I don't know. It just works because of what the movie is ultimately about and what it's trying to yell at us, that stunt work is important. And he really owns that and does that character really, really, really well.
Yeah, he was really good. And you really bought like he made that relationship so believable between him and Ryan Gosling. Like you bought that like these are guys that have known each other for like decades at this point.
100%. My one question is, how does Ryan Gosling's Colt Seavers have a Miami Vice stunt jacket?
Well, okay. So I kept thinking that too. And then it sounds like, because whenever... Okay.
I'm listening.
I kept having that same question. And then at the end, whenever he like reveals it to Emily Blunt that he's still alive, she's like, oh yeah, from the Miami Vice stunt show. So it's like he was doing like a stunt show, like, you know, like at amusement parks, they do stunt shows based on like old IPs and stuff. That's what I think was the deal with him.
Side note, can we talk about how Ryan Gosling's movie career has just become a bunch of different movie jackets?
Series of awesome jackets, yeah.
Like what? I don't get it. Like
this might be my favorite one. Like
honestly, yes.
So cool.
Top 3, I think, is Drive, the Barbie like fur coat, and then the Miami Vice one's like really great. Like it's simple.
Dude, I'm really hoping, because I haven't gotten it yet, but on NBC's like store, their official storefront or Universal, you can get that hoodie from Nope, the the Scorpion King crew hoodie that he wears in that movie.
Really?
And I'm really hoping they do a Miami Vice one for this.
That would go so crazy. Yeah, I would have to get that for sure. What was your favorite part about this movie? Is it Ryan Gosling?
Probably. Yeah, I like him, and I like just like I mentioned earlier, just like that it's a movie about filmmaking.
Sure.
And then just like I know some people are kind of over all this type of humor by now, but just like the very referential, like lots of like references to pop culture, like old movies and stuff. Like I still am very much into that, because that's kind of like how me and my friends talk, is through movies.
Yeah, a little bit of it, and I'm talking about the boy that I was just bragging about. A little bit of it, I don't know that completely works, especially specifically like the scene with Ryan Gosling and Winston Duke when they're in Aaron Taylor Johnson's like Airbnb that he's in like renting in Sydney, Australia.
You don't like the Mohicans line?
No,
Dude, that's so good.
I like the idea of it almost as much as I like the idea of You. That's a fantastic movie, by the way. It's really good. No, I like the idea of it. I like it on paper.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little overdone.
Yeah.
This is where David Lietch has some weaknesses. And when I say has some weaknesses, I'm happy he goes for these things, right? Like, because if he doesn't, we don't get the movies that he makes. So it's a caveat more than it is anything. I can get over it. Didn't completely love it. It's like specifically like I like the setup for this. A lesser movie would have done this way worse, but I like the joke between Jodie and Colt when she keeps setting him on fire. But I just kept thinking like there is like first time director doing this is going to get fired so fast.
I know. I kept thinking that too. Yeah.
And like part of me is like, Matt, turn your brain off. This is a movie. Just watch it. See what happens. The other part of me is like, but in another movie, you would have complained about it. And so
it's true.
I can take some of it and then some of it I just can't. And he David Lietch very much just goes berserko crazy with it, which I'm happy that he does that because again, we get the movies he makes and they're fun and they're good and they're very unique. They're uniquely him. In the same way that like, this is a weird comparison, but I think it works. But in the same way that you can tell a Wes Anderson movie is a Wes Anderson movie, I think you can tell a David Lietch movie is a David Lietch movie. I didn't think about it until I was thinking about like his movies like Atomic Blonde, Hobbs and Shaw. Like, I think you think of David Lietch directing a movie like, oh, yeah, Hobbs and Shaw, that's made by David Lietch. Oh, yeah, Bullet Train's made by But when you look at it from a broad perspective, they all have the same exact formula, felt the same exact way.
They do.
And that's because he does the thing he wants to do, which I'm happy with, but it doesn't always work all the time for me, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And I kept that scene like it's like, oh, this is really funny, and then like you're just like you, like that part of my brain was like, there's no way like this is actually happening because
now
he ain't making it past today.
The one thing that really worked in that scene is when the character in the uniform. Oh my god, I almost lost it again. That's one of the best jokes too of the year. Like the physical humor of that. Speaking of physical humor, Ryan Gosling just has it.
Yeah.
Dude was looking at a fake unicorn and I was laughing.
Uh-huh.
Like I just
every time, like it was funny like hearing the people slowly like notice the unicorn in each of the scenes like in the theater because like they'd be like it'd be quiet and then you'd be there for a minute and then everyone would notice it and be like everyone would just start laughing at the same time. It was really good.
Going back to the Winston Duke Ryan Gosling scene in Aaron Taylor Johnson's Airbnb, one of the things that I liked is how like the what's it called? It's not Occam's razor, but that's what's in my brain for some reason. When they show the gun, Chekhov's gun, when they show the gun, and then he opens it and it just says blanks. I loved how they utilized that gun.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good. And then also like the fake out with Ryan Gosling acting like he got shot was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go ahead.
There's a lot of setup payoff like in the movie. Like I wouldn't say it's exactly like telegraph,
no,
really, but just like when it happens, you're like, oh yeah, like they were setting that up earlier. Okay,
for sure, you can expect. There's things in this movie you just expect, but it's allowing you to expect it. It's allowing you room to get there, which is very different than trying to be clever and it just not working.
Mm-hmm.
One of my other favorite parts of this movie, which really shocked me going into this movie, I was questioning the casting of this person, Hannah Waddingham. I didn't love her in the trailer. but oh my gosh, I loved her in the movie. She's like the most coked up version of herself from Ted Lasso that I've ever seen. And it's perfect.
Just like chugging Diet Cokes in every scene is so funny, but also like super accurate.
There's no way. Like, also, like the idea that it's Diet Coke. Like, there's like.
Dude, people are addicted to Diet Coke. That's like a thing, man.
Well, it's not even that. It's Coke. Like, think about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's just so funny, and she just kills it. Like, she has the kinetic, like, she matches the kinetic energy of Aaron Taylor Johnson in this movie, which is really difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved how she played the producer that does not care about directors. This is her movie, and she's going to get what she wants. And she just, she captured that so well.
Yeah, she did. I mean, I get it. Like, some of it's it's kind of weird. Like, probably my own, like, I don't have a lot of complaints about this movie just because it's just like meant to be just a fun, enjoyable movie. You're not supposed to think about too terribly much. But I feel like sometimes it tries to ground itself a bit, like with like staging it as they're making a movie, like, and then this stuff is like the stuff that's really happening, to where like when some of that stuff gets like super hyper like stylized and stuff, that it kind of works against it a bit, I think.
Yes, I agree with this statement, but it leads to a fun scene. I know. Mm-hmm. I think I know where you're going with this. The nightclub scene.
Yeah. Well, I just meant like, I mean, all throughout the movie, really.
I think personally,
that's definitely a big example of it.
I was about to say, from my perspective, like, I love the look of the nightclub scene. What ended up happening, him getting drugged, and the way they filmed that, it was incredible. Dude turned into John Wick, which kind of confused me for a moment. But
me too.
For him to be like, because it doesn't really fit his character, because he's running around super nervous, like he's almost borderline like a cat personified. Like, his demeanor is just scared of everything, which is kind of funny considering he's a stuntman. But dude just turned into John Wick just randomly in this movie, and it's filmed really well. Like, I like the way it looked, but it certainly is like, but where was this set up in any other part of this movie, and where did it go? Like, it just it appeared and then it went.
Yeah, like there wasn't even, I guess the implication is that like he's done like maybe fight stuff before in movies, but just like, I don't know, like whenever that started, I agree. I was just kind of like, oh, okay. He's like an expert like fighter now. All right, that's cool.
But it was fun to watch, for sure.
Yeah.
Going into some of my thoughts, my negative thoughts specifically. It's too long.
Yeah, it is.
And that's not like, don't get me wrong. Like, I was happy to sit in this movie for an additional 30 minutes. Just because I like the character. David Lietch can just create characters who are entertaining and just ooze charisma. He is fantastic at it. But he hasn't shown a great effort of being able to end a movie. I don't think, outside of like John Wick. I'm trying to think. There's Atomic Blonde, there's Deadpool 2, Bullet Train, Hobbs and Shaw. Hobbs and Shaw is it outside of John Wick. Let's take John Wick out of this, because I think that's a little bit like outstanding like example. But is Hobbs and Shaw his best ending? Which is shocking because doesn't really connect with anything else.
I don't know. I really like the Deadpool 2 ending personally, but I mean, I can see why some people wouldn't like it. I can't even remember how Hobbs and Shaw ends, to be honest.
That's so funny. I was about to say I don't remember how Deadpool 2 ended. Hobbs and Shaw ends with Idris Elba as like a AI. Spoilers for a movie that came out in like 2018, something like that. Like he's like a
Deadpool 2 is the he gets kicked like time travel thing and starts going back and changing everything.
I remember that now. Yeah, I forgot completely about that. But my point stands. Like there's not a lot to draw from. Like in terms of like his endings that actually like land the plane and work. Mm-hmm. About the only thing I remember from Atomic Blonde is a pretty cool staircase scene, I think. And then James McAvoy running across the highway yelling at Charlize Theron. That's about it.
Which, I mean, he even is like self-referential of that in this movie. Like that they have problems with the third act. Like they don't really know. They don't really know what they're going to do.
I didn't think about that. I thought about that more as like a commentary on like big budget like blockbusters. But yeah, 100%. That's a great point. Like just because I mean the director herself, Jodie. We can talk about Emily Blunt after this if you want to. Specifically says she doesn't know how she wants to end this thing, and she's all over the place. And arguably, like the movie that was made in the movie, like is not the greatest. So I never thought about that, but that's a really good point. You want to talk about Emily Blunt?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not her best work. I mean, she's fine. She's good, but not. There's something like strange that's off.
Thing. I agree. Like. The thing is, I think it's just because we know how great she can be. Yeah. You know? And, I mean, just last year, she was nominated for an Oscar. Like,
have you thought about this?
She's very good.
I was thinking about this the other day. Gosling, nominated for an Oscar last year. Blunt, nominated for an Oscar last year. Pretty sure Hannah Waddingham has either been nominated for an Emmy or has won an Emmy. Stephanie Sue was nominated for an Oscar. Like this thing, Winston Duke, I don't think's been nominated for an Oscar, but dude, I Hate Us, and he was fantastic in Us, and he's good in Black Panther. Like Aaron Taylor Johnson was nominated for an Oscar. Yep. Like, oh my, this cast is insane.
Yeah, it's really good. I definitely thought like, you know, you were both nominated for supporting last year. That was definitely on my mind. But yeah, like, I don't know. I really don't know what it was. Like, I definitely felt like something was off.
It's not their chemistry.
No, because they're great.
I also don't know that I completely see them like together either, though. I don't think the movie did enough heavy lifting for me to like buy into that. And maybe that's the problem, because all around, like all of these characters are pretty paper thin. And so when you remove like the thing that you're supposed to be interested in with the character, because obviously Colt Seavers is our lead here, when you remove the thing that is supposed to bring, because this movie is very much shot like they're texting and on calls and FaceTiming. Like they're not really together outside of a movie set. And that's, again, maybe 20 minutes of this 2-hour movie. And so you never really see them outside of the all too well scene, which does really work. You don't really see them together, just like in a romantic light. And so I think a lot of people are calling this a good, like a good like action rom-com. I don't know that I see it that way. Like I see the formula there. I just don't know that the rom-com in the action rom-com actually rom-coms for me.
I think that the whole her trying to figure out the movie and then him like it being like a metaphor for fixing a relationship or whatever, like worked okay at first, and then it's kind of started to grate on me a little bit towards the middle part of the movie. Like And then also I thought the like split screen scene was pretty fun, and then it went on for a little bit too long, and then it's kind of overstayed its welcome a bit.
It
But
made me
yeah,
think of
and
Wes Anderson.
okay. Well, I mean, it was like referencing like Woody Allen movies, um, but just like, yeah, I I don't know. I think they were definitely like harkening back to like 80s, 90s romantic
Sure.
comedies, but that's probably the thing that was the least interesting in this movie.
I'm glad you said that. I was wanting to ask, like, which part of this movie was you the most locked in on? Like the making of the greatest blockbuster ever made, Metal Storm, or the Ryan Gosling stuntman Colt Seavers trying to figure out this like murder plot?
Like I was really into like the making of the movie, and for me it took like a bit for me to really get invested in the other plot, like with him trying to find the actor and everything. But once that kind of like found its, that's probably what I switched over to for most of the movie as the most interesting thing, I think.
Yeah, it could not find that balance. I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I really loved, like, I love this idea of sitting here for an hour and a half living in the making of this movie. And then the accident happens at the very beginning of the movie. And then that stuff just goes kaput. Like, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You get like 10 minutes of it, and that the 10 minutes is her repeatedly lighting him on fire. And then the obvious like thing that we haven't talked about yet, but I'm sure we will in a second, is the what's it called? The barrel roll. And then it goes into Hannah Waddingham is like, yo, you need to go free my boy Tom Ryder. And the movie just changes course really quickly. And though I do think I agree with you, like that change is like really, it starts off sort of slow. Like it's at like if the previous parts of that was revving up and getting ready to launch you into this, like, again, a movie that's obviously clearly about stunt work and showing you what goes behind the scenes of that. And it gets to like this peak, it just stops. And then it starts making another movie. And though I got invested in that second movie, it could never like find the balance between the two, because like when I was at the beginning of that the second movie where he goes into the murder plot, I'm thinking of, but what about Jody Marino and her movie? And then when it finally ever gets me hooked in the murder plot and it goes back to Metal Storm, I'm thinking, but what about Aaron Taylor Johnson? I haven't seen him on screen in a long time.
Yep. That's exactly it. It like yeah, like I just couldn't find the exact right balance of everything.
The other
like everything was interesting on its own.
100%.
It struggled kind of like just jumping from one to another.
I'd love to see David Lietch, and this is never going to happen, at least not anytime soon. I would love to see David Lietch like not make an ensemble cast, make a small like 5-person movie and just see what happens. Because I wonder if part of his issue, like completing a movie, and again, I love his movies. I love this movie. It's fantastic. I feel like it just bloats and bloats and bloats, and then it just pops. And you never get like the satisfying. I don't want to say the endings of his movies are not satisfying, but they're not satisfying in the same way that I would use the word satisfying talking about another movie on this podcast.
And like you mentioned, what's his name? Guy Ritchie earlier. I feel a lot like the same about him. Like he has these interesting concepts in all movies. Like the story's always like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then he sort of just like he loses his hold on the rope, I guess, a bit, and like it kind of runs away from him some.
100%. I think Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is a really good comparison to this movie. I think this is a much better movie than that is. But like,
yeah,
I think where the two movies, both of these two movies have the exact same issues and the exact same like strengths. The strengths are the cast, and you love them, and they love doing what they're doing. The weaknesses is the movie has an interesting premise that it doesn't satisfy you on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's it.
Exactly.
And I wonder, because I think this is a unique movie. I think it's in a unique position in the sense that, like, this movie, I don't want to say this movie had to do well for the future of movies to do well, because I don't believe that. I'm not committed to that. But I do think it's not good for movies if this movie did not do well. And so far, it has not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like this is the type of movie that every dad out there, every family out there should like this movie. And it just, no one went and watched it.
It's very, I'd say it's concerning. You know, I was kind of with it, and I definitely think it's pretty concerning, considering this is like the first weekend in May, like the big open to the summer. And like, I didn't think this was going to be like a mega hit or anything, but I definitely thought it was going to do better than it did. And it kind of makes me worried for like,
it should have snoozed to 40.
Movie. Mm-hmm.
I'm about to look now, but I think I could be wrong in this. I think Multiverse of Madness came out the same week 2 years ago, or a week after this 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that came after a year or 2 years off of going to the movies. And that thing made gangbusters. Obviously, it's Marvel. That's not a fair comparison. I get that. This movie should have sleptwalked to 40 million.
Yeah.
That should have been the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really shocked it only made 28 mil. And another one that's obviously not as popular, but we've been talking about it. We're going to say the Ministry of Warfare from now on. That's what we're going to refer to this movie as. The cast alone should have got that movie to $10 million opening weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect that one to do 40. I didn't. The cast alone should have got that movie to 10 million. And it just bombed. I think the last movie that made a lot of money, I guess Civil War, but like that one kind of shocked people, but also didn't shock people. But the last like true movie that came out that everyone just wanted to go see was Godzilla and Kong, unfortunately. Godzilla X Kong, whatever the name of that movie is. I'm very curious to see what happens to Mad Max or to Furiosa. I initially thought like 35, 45, maybe 50. Somewhere between 35 and 50 is probably where I was thinking. I'm thinking now like 35, 40 might be the maximum. I'm thinking it could probably hit around like 25, if that.
Yeah, you know,
Oh, also Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes next week.
Yeah, I think Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is going to do really well.
I hope
like
so.
Those are consistently well. I think it's tracking to do really well. Now, Fury Road, like, that's why I was so surprised they're actually making this movie. I don't think Fury Road was like that big a hit.
You might be right. I know it's critically a hit, but I think you might be right. I think though, with like Anya Taylor-Joy, and Chris Hemsworth, I figured it could get to like 35, 40 initially. I'm thinking it might do 20, 25.
It looks like Fury Road did 380 altogether.
Okay.
Now, I think the budget was like almost 200 million.
Oh my God. We got to stop that.
Because that thing just like... Well, the thing with that one was that it notoriously just had a ton of problems, and they just had to keep extending the of it.
Okay, so I'm glad we're here because this is a good transitional point. Why did this movie cost $130 million?
This movie did?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. That's what IMDb is reporting. I'm going to say something reckless. I think ultimately, like, I love the use of practical in this movie. It is noticeable, especially at the end. And I want to talk about the ending here in a second because there's like multiple different endings.
Yeah.
This movie looks bad. Point blank.
Yeah. And the visual effects do not look very good.
No. I am shocked that, like, I guess post Barbie, Ryan Gosling and post Oppenheimer, Emily Blunt, paychecks pull. Like, I guess. Yeah. That's the only thing I got here. That's the price of getting like 4 Academy nominated actors and actresses.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, and it would really take me out of it whenever some of those, like, because a lot of it is very much like, oh, this is like a real person doing like a real stunt, and like this is really cool. And then like it really made it more obvious whenever they were overusing visual effects.
I think the thing with Ryan Gosling going down the center of Sydney is a cool concept. And I think some of it is even cool in camera.
Mm-hmm.
It pales in comparison to that perfect shot ending. It pales in comparison.
It does.
It's so noticeable. It almost borderline looks like a different movie.
You're talking about like the explosion thing. It looks like one of those like
it looks like what?
Stunt shows you would go see it at a like. It looks like one of those stunt shows you would go see at like an amusement park. Like it really does.
I couldn't just see Ryan Gosling. I'm standing up. You can't see this in the podcast. I couldn't just see Ryan Gosling doing this on a green screen.
He's standing.
Yeah, that's it. Just standing and surfing on like a tent. And I know that they did that, some of that practical. I also know that some of that's not practical. And I can also see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where is that ending? I think the way they utilize showing you what actually happens on set and then actually doing it really worked. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like showing you filming Aaron Taylor Johnson and then pulling him off the ramp. That's cinema. Like if I've ever seen it. Like that just works. And again, like going back to the Ryan Gosling going down the center of Sydney, it just doesn't work as well. And it's just so incredibly noticeable when you compare it to itself. I like the movie a lot. I really do. But there's so much of this movie that is better in its own self that I'm like, if you just make a few different choices, it's even better.
Yeah.
But I still love it as a popcorn movie. It's just strange. Mm-hmm. I'm so conflicted on it. And ultimately, I know I do really enjoy it. And it's really fun. It's a great 3.5, maybe even 4, depending on where you have that entertainment in your scale of like rating movies.
Yeah.
I just don't know that I'm going to I don't remember much of the movie as it stands. Like Stephanie Sue was in this thing for 3 minutes.
Oh yeah, that was surprising.
I don't know why you get Stephanie Sue for this. Like, I mean, are they like obviously Ryan Gosling already said they already have, like, depending on how well this movie does, which it did not do well, they already have a script ready. They're creating a script right now, and I think they're trying to set Stephanie Sue up for another movie. I just think that you can take so much out of this movie and make it a little bit more tighter, and it works so much better. Because, like, the 3 endings of it all just does not work for me.
Yeah.
Like, I, for one, and I love the ending that we got, like the ending, like the stuntman driven ending. I think that was fantastic.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I also really liked the James Bond on the nose, like Matthew Vaughn ending, like with Aaron Taylor Johnson on the pier. I wish we could have figured out a way to like meld those two things. And just end it there. This movie goes like 30, 45 minutes too long.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it reinvents itself in that, like, between the second and third act to try to justify the third act. If that makes sense.
No, you're right. Yeah. That's very spot on.
I like this movie a lot, and I'm happy we have it. But it does leave some things to be desired. Now, with all that being said, if there's any chance at all that we get a Nice Guys 2 because Ryan Gosling's in his bag right now, I'm happy we have that chance.
Did you see where we're getting a Pope's Exorcist 2?
What?
Yes, they're making a sequel to Pope's Exorcist.
So all $2 of the budget's going to Russell Crowe's bank account, right?
Yeah. Like, and the scooter budget.
Oh my god!
But just like, we can get a sequel to that, but not the Nice Guys. I mean, come on,
dude. Like, I will start a Kickstarter, Shane Black. I will personally like tithe half my a portion of my photography income. I promise.
Dude, like, how has no one, even for just like a limited series or something, picked that up?
I don't know what Zadslav is doing. The Nice Guys is WB, right? Am I making that up in my head?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Please, I might be making that up. I don't know.
No, you're right,
dude. Just give Ryan Gosling $1 million, give Russell Crowe $1 million, give Shane Black a couple million, and make the 5-episode show that we need. That's all I need, and I'll be happy. Yeah. That's it. Please. You know what would be really fun? If Quentin Tarantino wakes up tomorrow and says, you know what, guys, my 10th and final movie is going to be The Nice Guys 2.
I think that's what we need now, to be honest. That's what everyone needs.
I would be here for it, personally. Dude, how excited are you for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
I was trying not to get excited about it, but the reaction has been so good that it's like, oh man,
what a wonderful day.
I hope I'm not getting excited.
I have some expectations. I feel like Disney's really pushing this for a reason. I really think it's going to be good. Obviously, movies get premieres all the time. Movies premiere at the China Theater all the time. I don't know that movies premiere this early and put that much budget into designing the Chinese theater the way they did, and push as much marketing as they have as late.
It like makes me think of the heyday of the MCU, like whenever they would just show the movies to people weeks in advance and just be and like go all out and stuff.
I'll do you one better, brother. This makes me think of 2015, The Force Awakens.
I don't know about that.
Well, obviously not like the fan
I
reaction.
don't think there's been a movie like
Now, I'm not talking about the fan reaction. I'm talking about like the confidence in the way they're releasing this thing.
Okay.
That's what I'm meaning. Like, I think they're putting a lot behind it. And I can't wait. Like, my expectations, if you'd asked me 6 months ago, would have been pretty low.
I had no interest in like a non-Andy Serkis movie in this Planet of the Apes continuity.
1,000, dude. When I saw Andy Serkis on when they invited him to the red carpet, I was like, oh my god, they're doing my boy right. They're not going to massacre him. I believe. I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm so incredibly excited. I see it 2 nights from now.
I'm thinking of like rewatching The Maze Runner.
I don't know that I've ever watched it.
Okay, so Maze Runner was like the first one is surprisingly good. Now, I didn't like any of the sequels. I thought they were really bad, which is why I was kind of worried about this movie. But I see like in like a lot of the positive reactions are like, we should have known because The Maze Runner was good, that this would be good. So I'm thinking of maybe revisiting that because I remember it being really good. You know, and I feel like I think another reason to feel sort of confident in this is that they hired him to do a live action Zelda movie, which is like a huge undertaking. So yeah, I think the buzz around this, like in the industry, must be pretty loud.
Yeah, Zelda isn't the keys to anything. Like I like Zelda, and I'm probably gonna get like absolutely massacred in the comments here. I think Zelda's fantastic. I love Breath of the Wild. I don't think Zelda's a massive risk in comparison to like, because like it's just another video game movie, you know, like to the public eye, right? Like it's not, you see what I'm saying? Like it's not Super Mario Brothers, but Zelda is important to people who love Zelda. I don't know that Zelda is as well known as like Super Mario Brothers. Does that make sense?
I don't know.
It sounds like you have an opinion. I'm here for it.
I mean, me like myself, I've only played like Breath of the Wild, so I mean, but even me, just like, yeah, like Zelda's pretty massive. Like Zelda is just as big as Mario for Nintendo.
Okay. I
think doing it in live action is a pretty big deal.
No, I think
just because Mario, they kind of like, I feel like it was easy. It was kind of safe. Mario, like a very safe movie to me.
No, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that, and I don't disagree with the sentiment that Zelda is their next like biggest IP that Nintendo has. And I completely agree with you that going live action's way more just not safe at all. It's way more risky. And ultimately, I think that it's either going to have like the connotation of like Warcraft, like the way that movie was received, or it's going to be like The Last of Us. I don't know that there's any in between there. My point though is more so is I don't know that Zelda in the public image is going to have like bonkers money thrown at it, like in terms of like the general going audience. And so with that in mind, I don't know if there's like maybe Avatar: The Last Airbender is a really good like comp here. I don't know that Avatar is going to have, Zelda's going to have that rampant of a fan base. Whereas like I think Avatar is a little bit more mainstream. You see what I'm saying? Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
And so I don't know that it's the keys to the kingdom. I do think it is absolutely a vote of confidence, though. I think it's safe for Disney to give him Zelda if they think the movie might do well. That's probably the best way to say it. Like, Zelda was the safe choice for them to give to West Bell. I think that's what I was trying to say. They also, well, I wonder when he was given this. Is this during the, I'm blanking on his name now, the GOAT CEO of Disney, Bob Iger. Is this during the new Bob Iger thing, or is this still remnants of the most forgettable Disney?
Which one are you talking about?
West Bell and Zelda.
Not Disney, is it?
Oh, is it not? Oh, it's Nintendo.
No, I don't think so.
It's Nintendo, isn't it? Is Nintendo in bed with like Universal?
For Mario they were.
I wonder who's releasing this with Nintendo. Because I based on this entire conversation, I was going off it was Disney and Nintendo, but that doesn't make much sense, I guess. I wonder who they're working with, because if it's not Disney, it's not going to be WB. It wouldn't be Paramount because, God, they're in some issues right now.
Sony?
That is an interesting collaboration. That is a really interesting collaboration.
Rod, and he's Spider-Man guy.
Well, I guess the good news is this. Sony is probably looking at like, it can't be Madam Web bad.
Kind of interesting that Sony Pictures is making a Nintendo movie.
That is very strange. They're trying to get that Breath of the Wild 2 on PS5 is what they're trying to do. And I'm here for 3. That. What's that?
You mean 3?
Is it 3? Am I just behind?
Tears of the Kingdom came out.
That's Breath of the Wild?
That's a sequel to Breath of the Wild, yeah.
I had no idea. You just made my day.
It's only there are only 2 of the highest selling games of all time.
Well, listen, I sold my Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
But I did love Breath of the Wild. That was a really fun game. It might be the best game I've ever completed. Thinking about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Anywho, dude, I just need West Bell to steady the ship. That's all I need. Just keep the ship going. That's all I need.
I think we said like last week, like, or maybe whenever we were talking about the other Apes movies, like, as long as it's like good, like, it doesn't have to be incredible. As long as it's good, I'm going to be happy.
Exactly. I will see it on Wednesday. Got all of my fingers crossed. I have pretty high hopes for it. I think it's going to be good. But yeah, I got no other words for the Fall Guy. He fell really well. I like that movie.
Well, no, he actually didn't.
David Lietch, I like the movies you make. Ryan Gosling, I will watch you in anything. Emily Blunt, you're fantastic. Dude, we need Winston Duke to be in a lead role. That's what we need.
Yeah.
I need that in my life.
I'm here for it.
Any final words?
No, think you said it pretty well. I agree to everything that you said.
Fantastic. We'll end it there because that's just what I needed. Adios. We will see you guys next week for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Is that the name of the movie? There's a lot of different names for these movies, and it's kind of difficult.
All right.
We'll call it that for now.
A lot of fun.
Adios. Bye.